computer glasses on, you would call them. Today is the 14th of December, 10:15 in the morning. Israel's going to have a very nice day today, sunny. It's 64 now, we'll hit 70, low 55. Tomorrow we'll hit 73, sunny. And then Saturday we'll have cloudy, 70-degree high. Sunday, cloudy, 68. Monday, partially cloudy, 68. Tuesday will go down to a high of 62. Wednesday, 64, then 66, then 65. So we're getting deeper into our winter where the highs will be mid-60s. That's what winter usually looks like. Occasionally you get days where the high is 55, but, you know, that's the winter here. And if all goes the way I'm hoping and thinking it will, which you never know, where we'll be headed is mid-February, the weather will turn favorable again. Now, that's not a guarantee. I've seen it take till late March, but I have a feeling it'll be the case. Oh, I made this too thick. Oh well. What are we gonna do? Okay. So let me go while people are coming in. Let me take a look at the live stream and make sure everything is working. So let me go. We got sound and picture. That's always a good thing. And I need to do a few things in the chat that are very fast, and then we'll get started. This is going to be a lot of what they preppers and survivalists call intel on specific military details about what's going to happen with the Israel-Hezbollah war, and it's going to happen very soon. Okay. So I'm going to really break it down to you in military terms. This is going to be a predominantly, in the beginning of this live stream, it's going to be heavy intel that people like. Then we're going to go into Bible, and I'm going to show you a comparison. A subscriber that studies the Bible avidly for decades suggested that the Hur in Revelation 17, which is the great city, is the place that the beast sets up his shop and his temple, which we're told is where Satan's seat is, because in Revelation 13, verse 2, we read Satan gives the beast his seat. Okay? And Revelation 2, I think verse 12, tells us Satan's seat is located in Pergamos, which is also, it says in Revelation 2, maybe verse 13 or 14, where Satan dwells. Satan gives the beast his power and authority, and Satan seats in Pergamos, which is an island, a city in North Cyprus near the coast. And that part of North Cyprus is owned and controlled by Turkey, the former Ottoman Empire seat. So it's it'll be an interesting Bible study, and we'll look at the differences. And we'll show you that they are different. I'll show you why. I'm going to touch this up. Okay. So, let me get back in the chat. And when I show you the real interpretation of what's going to happen in Hezbollah, with Hezbollah and Israel, it's not going to be what the media wants you to think it is, okay? And we're going to not only look at the military details, we're also going to look at the actions of Hezbollah and Israel, because they don't lie. what comes out of the mouth of the media is usually comical, and the um, what comes out of the mouth of the politicians is usually not highly specific and subject to all kinds of interpretations. So almost done. But we got to give people a chance to come in. A lot of people just put sign up on the screen, live stream started in 10 minutes. I don't think that's nice, so I prefer to do it this way. I'm almost done. Probably have a pretty large amount of people in the live stream today because they love intel. They don't know what to do with it when they get it, unfortunately, because they rely on themselves with guns and prepping and bug out bags and bug out locations and getting ready and preparing, and that's not going to work. All right. So the war with Hamas has really wound down in terms of them firing missiles into Israel. It's, I counted, I think it was yesterday, a 13-hour break with no missiles. I'm thinking now we're down. It could change, but we're down to about 65% drop in missiles. And that's going to eventually drop to 75, 90%, and then you're going to see days without missiles and stuff like that. What the heck Hamas is thinking is a mystery of the Western world, because it's over. Nobody's coming to help them. They're getting token support from the Houthis in Yemen with occasional shooting missiles at ships. They tried shooting missiles at Eilat, Israel, which is in the south, and they weren't getting any hits, so they cut that out. We were taking them down with the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow 3. Plus, American ships were taking it down. Our Navy ships were taking it down, so they didn't get anywhere. So now they're trying to attack innocent maritime vessels that are going to Israel, coming from Israel, or there's some ownership having to do with Israel. I don't know where they're getting their intel from, probably open source. There was an attempt yesterday in the Red Sea, 5 little boats that had powerful motors so they could go fast, tried to get a maritime vessel. You could say they were pirates, you could say they were terrorists. It's unclear because they got away. They aborted their attempt at the ship. The ship probably, for sure, put out broadcasts, emergency help, I'm being chased by 5 small boats, terrorists or pirates. And the terrorists or pirates probably had a base unit back home, whatever that is. Could have been Yemen or Somalia, I don't know. and they were told, you better get out of there. They're getting help from either aircraft, helicopters, Navy ships, or something. So they aborted their attack, and nothing happened to the ship. But they're trying every day. Biden did as predicted. He basically is raising a coalition of 15 NATO members. They're all going to contribute some naval vessels. Now, that would mean there's going to be at least 15 naval vessels, plus probably 3 or 4 from America, plus probably 1 or 2 from Israel. Israel's already got a corvette in the Red Sea working in this endeavor with America. The endeavor is to shoot down missiles that the Houthis launch and to respond to distress calls from maritime vessels that see themselves getting followed by unknown small vessels. Attacks can also manifest via drones, and at one point they even used a Navy drone, a drone vessel. There are efforts to attack Eilat using everything, missiles, drones, whatever they can do, failed miserably. The reason they were attacking Eilat is twofold. One, that's probably the only place they could reach. And 2, a lot of the people that were evacuated from the south near Gaza went to Eilat. There's a lot of what you call, I guess, Airbnbs down in Eilat that are vacant because there's no tourists. So the government rents the Airbnbs by the month and gives it to displaced people. They probably cut a mean deal with the owners of the Airbnb because there's no tourism, so it's better to get some money than nothing. I would think they got to be paying $75 to $100 a day for the Airbnb. And people have to provide electricity, water, heat, and all that. So it's not so cheap. Then on the other hand, they might just be paying these people $1,500 or $1,800 a month or something. I don't know. I don't even know if I can find out. It'd be hard. And a lot of it's going to depend on the size of the Airbnb. If they've got enough to sleep, 5 or 6 people, then they'll pay more and they can put families with kids in there. A lot is very mild in the winter and usually doesn't get rain like the rest of Israel. So it's a nice place. The high gets like, up here like 70, 72, 75, But our temperatures will wind down, theirs won't. So you really don't need much in terms of heaters, and you don't really need much in terms of air conditioning at all. And you can go to the beach and sit by the pool and do various things down there. A lot of the Eilat city, it's heavily tourist dependent, may not be doing much. In other words, a lot of the tourists, the restaurants and stuff, the guys may have just shut. So the Houthis are trying to do something to provoke Israel and America, and the plan with the snare is probably to see if they can get Israel to invade Yemen and hit the Houthis. Can they do this, and will it work? Probably, just by continually attacking. Eventually, America will reach out to NATO and they'll form a force, and they'll probably come in through Saudi Arabia, probably 2 or 3 locations in Saudi for land attacks, and they'll probably use the Marine Expeditionary Force and their landing ships. They'll probably put about 3,000 of them on a beachhead. And they'll start doing a pincher move, and it'll be a bad fight, and it's going to take months, because the Houthis will be hidden in the terrain, in the mountains, in the bushes, in the woods, or wherever they can hide, and in tunnels and underground bunkers. And they will be fighting against the invading forces avidly. And that'll get American military entrenched down there, but if they get NATO to help, not that many. But the other side of this coin is NATO in Europe will be weaker as a result of this. Not that they're going to lose tens of thousands of troops, but they're going to use up a lot of their military equipment. Missiles, rockets, artillery shells, ammo, food supplies, uniforms, all of the above, you know. And they'll be spread thin, making it easier for Russia to work the snare and attack some NATO countries. If America fails to keep coming up with aid for Ukraine, probably in 2 or 3 weeks, Ukraine's going to start to have to fall back. And more territory will be captured by Russia. If Russia pushes all the way through and takes Ukraine, or 75% of it, or something like that, it gives Russia a tremendous buffer zone from parts of Europe, a big one, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles, which will protect them from many rockets and missiles, and they'll be well aware of aircraft flying overhead. They could shoot at it. It's a good victory for Russia. What happens here with Ukraine remains to be seen. It could be choreographed that they want this to happen, or it could be Biden doesn't want it to happen and it's happening. Things don't go their way. They just hope they do, and they don't. Especially in these latter days, the year of recompenses, things don't go their way at all. By bringing in a NATO coalition, Biden frees himself from any attacks from other countries politically. He doesn't care. Because he'll just say, well, they're attacking shipping, and, you know, and me and our allies, NATO, we're going to stop it, you know, and that's it. There's not going to be votes in the UN or anything like that, nothing. And if he uses the coalition forces to attack Yemen, which is a likely, probable outcome, because that's the only time you're going to stop him. They're not going to do anything. There's too many countries involved. You'll read about it in the press. Criticism in the press. But you're not going to see any action taken against them or anything. They're too big. Nothing's going to go down. Okay. And look at the chat for a second, see if there's any questions popping up or anything. No, I don't see any. Okay. So what's been going on in Lebanon and Israel at the border is predominantly what you'd call border skirmishes on a harassment level. So the United States conveniently decided that that wasn't opening up a second front against Israel, although it is. They're saying it's not. But that's a stupid argument because many people that live in the cities by the border of the Lebanese border up at the north have had to evacuate. From what I read, it's probably a good 90-95% evacuated. Okay? And America's saying that's not a front, so we're not entering into the war. Very good logic for them. Will America enter into the war against Lebanon? There's a good chance because it'll entrench the American military in a front or a theater over there, and it'll use up a lot of their military equipment. And I would say Biden's opposed to America and doesn't want to see it go down anymore. He wants to get rid of it like Obama. Thus, the open borders that it refuses to close, even though it's fairly common knowledge that 70% of the people crossing the border illegally are military-age males. And it shouldn't be that way. The other 30% comprise children, women, and the elderly over military age, which would be maybe over 35 or over 40. So it's a disproportionate percentage of military-age males coming in. It probably should be 25% or even less. So it's very unusual. And he refuses to do anything about it. And the Congress doesn't want to let him have aid for Ukraine and Israel until he closes the border, and he's not closing the border. So tell me why he wants the border open. You got any good reasons for this? I don't have a single one. It's all bad. He's working against the country. That's all I get. So biblically, prophetically speaking, he's working with the beast who has not yet emerged from the pit, but is operating. They want to get rid of the whore, which is Washington, D.C. It's not working. Why is it not working? Because Israel is moving forward. Okay? Satan is very unhappy about this. He wants to stop prophecy, so he keeps himself out of the pit for 1,000 years, and that involves getting rid of Israel. A very minimum, getting Israel out of Jerusalem, but that's even very dangerous for him. So, in the snare against America, which will result in her invasion, the countries that are predominantly doing it on the first tier are really China and Russia. Those are the two big powerhouses. If you put China and Russia here, you have to put Iran way the heck down. Because Iran doesn't have a navy to speak of, they don't have submarines, they don't have aircraft carriers, they don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have a big air force, and blah, 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 blah. But they're a valued participant in the snare, as is North Korea. So North Korea and Iran are like the second tier. The third tier, the disposable throwaways would be Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, the militias in Iraq and Syria, and Venezuela, Cuba, and Mexico. Remember, they're all coming in through Mexico, and Mexico thinks it's a great thing. They're not trying to stop it. They could. So those are the disposable asset countries that, Satan doesn't really care about. He's just using them. So eventually, China will hit Taiwan, North Korea will hit South Korea, Japan will be in the fight, Philippines will be in the fight, and Guam. And this gives China a way to weaken the American military without the fighting occurring on or in the homeland of China. Russia, by attacking countries like Georgia, Moldova, Poland, Romania, Lithuania, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, gives Russia an opportunity to attack weak countries that can't hold up, causing NATO and America to dump a lot of resources into protecting these countries from Russia. Again, the fighting is not on homeland Russia. So the desire here is to have America deploy more and more military assets to the Middle East, to Europe with NATO fighting Russia, and to the Pacific area with China and Taiwan and North and South Korea and all of that, Japan. And then America moves more and more military assets away from America into these three theaters of combat. Plus, there's a fourth one, but it's rather small, and that's Venezuela annexing 2/3 of Guyana, coincidentally, the 2/3 with a lot of oil. And while they're staged on the border, they have not yet invaded Guyana. There could be a UN Security Council decision to demand Venezuela to leave the borders of Guyana and go home, lest they face military action. But to do that, it would have to go through the UN Security Council, which would require a unanimous vote. So China and Russia both have permanent seats, and they would more than likely vote against it, so it's not going to go anywhere. The UN is completely worthless at this point because the people in there are divided. If Russia and China get rid of the US, in other words, as a daughter of Babylon, it doesn't exist anymore, it's not a country, then they could use the UN to their needs, because they're not going to be getting vetoes from America. The UK probably won't stand up. And that's what they're doing. And they intend to knock out or take down the daughter of Babylon, America, before they take care of Israel. They're not that interested in having to fight Israel now and have America stand up against them with 70 warships in the area, hundreds of planes, thousands of troops. They don't want that. Not that I'm saying Biden would really do it. Biden's done nothing except move the warships here. The only way this terrorism in the area will stop is when you cut the head off the snake, which is Iran, or you can just annihilate the satellite puppets of Iran, which is Yemen, Lebanon, Gaza, to some minor extent the West Bank of Israel, Iraq, and Syria. They would have to all be plowed down, militaristically anyway. So we need to talk about what the real threat value and power is that Hezbollah can wield or deploy against Israel. And we're going to do that right now. Okay? I'm going into notes and we're going to get through this. Did a lot of research. One thing I need to tell you is America and other countries have put tremendous pressure on Israel to avoid civilian casualties. So Israel drops leaflets in certain areas of Gaza and says, "Get out of here by tomorrow. It's going to be a war zone," to shut the nations up. Now that also tells Hezbollah that they're going to be attacking in this area, give them a warning. So they too evacuate and then come back after the attacks are over. So it puts Israel at a tremendous disadvantage. You need to understand this. And no other countries, they don't impose this on other countries at all. Okay. Are the Houthis going to stop launching ships just because America has 15 NATO countries built flotillas of naval vessels in there? No. They'll keep trying. They may not be successful, but they'll keep trying. And they may eventually get an advanced enough missile from China or Russia or Iran that actually can take some ships out in spite of the protective umbrella of the Navy flotilla of NATO. The only way the Houthis will stop is with an invasion, because that's what they want. And they're all underground, so they don't care. While the United States realizes the Houthis don't present a serious threat to America, they also are probably well aware of the fact that the time and manpower and money involved to get a victory over the Houthis by blowing them out of the tunnels and underground bunkers and getting rid of their missile launchers and all this other stuff is going to be a long, drawn-out, costly fight, and costly in terms of dollars and personnel and equipment. They're not going to stop till they're bombed into the Middle Ages like Hamas. Oh, yesterday the boats that were following this maritime vessel were not in the Red Sea area. They were by Oman, by where the Persian Gulf enters into the Sea of Oman. I'm sorry, it was a different location. So they're expanding their activities. America, shortly after the October 7th attack, gave Israel 3,000 JDAM precision-guided bombs. These things have very substantial warheads, up to about 2,000 pounds, roughly. And it appears to me that they were used to some extent in Gaza, but they probably never used more than 30 or 40 or 50 of them or something like that. Maybe they used 100 or 200, but they didn't use a huge inventory of them there. These are being saved, I think, for Hezbollah and other people. These are very, very accurate guided bombs that have very powerful warheads. Now, America also transferred to Israel 100 BLU-100 bombs that are meant to penetrate hardened structures. And these are your I'm sorry, the other missiles usually aren't that heavy. They're probably 250, 500 pounds typically, or something like that. These are the bunker busters. I'm sorry, they're called BLU-109. They have a 900 kilo warhead, which is about 2,000 pounds. And they were used against the tunnels with limited effectiveness because the tunnels are frequently over 100 feet down, and these things don't work at that great of a depth usually. But they did get some tunnels blown up this way. And they only sent us 100 of them, and I don't think they were all that effective. These JDAMs, those are the ones we got 3,000 of, are dropped out of aircraft, and they have a range of up to 15 miles. So the plane drops it, it could drive it onto a target 15 miles away maximum. And that's under ideal conditions. If you got rain or snow or winds, it could be different. No, the J dams can get up to 2,000 pounds. I'm sorry. They start out at 500 pounds. There's no 250. So this is another viable weapon. That we've been using. And the tunnels in Gaza are reasonably well destructed right now. But there's still, they had 300 miles of tunnels. So they're still functioning down there. Going through notes. The Panama Canal has having a drought, and they're turning ships away now that have to go all the way around South America, which is about a 2-week journey. And they burn up a lot of fuel. Their ship is tied up. They can't run somebody else's cargo. The cargo is tied up an extra 2 weeks, and they got to pay the crew and burn a lot more fuel. So shipping costs are going to be rising, if not already. And a lot of ships are now afraid to go into the Red Sea because of the Houthis. So this problem is growing. And America, the great voice, the hammer of the whole earth, is going to try to take care of it, I think. But the problem in Panama, as we're told, involves a drought, not an army. So what's America going to do? Not much. But it enhances the shipping problem along with what's going on in the Red Sea. And if they start getting serious, Iran does, in the Persian Gulf, it'll really get critical. Okay, so about Hezbollah. We hear all kinds of stories of Hezbollah having anywhere up to 250,000 missiles. What you're going to hear from me today is that the amount of missiles they have is secondary importance. The predominant important factor is how many missile launchers they have and how hard they are to find. That's what we're going to really dig into. Most of the Hezbollah missiles can travel at a range of up to 10 miles. That's it. So that means they can attack the borders by Israel, but that's about it. Now, they're not going to parade right up to the border fence and start launching. They're going to do it from a few miles inside Lebanon. Now, they do have, we suspect, missiles that have a greater range, which we're going to delve into in detail. They're missiles with a large warhead and substantial in the size of the missile without the warhead. Hezbollah is saying they have 100,000 to 250,000 missiles/rockets, which has been growing as the months go by and the years go by via media reports. It's not, good intel at all. It's just, threats coming out of Hezbollah. The Muslim terrorist groups love to make threats. Israel doesn't respond to verbal threats and verbal information from politicos in other countries. They want hard evidence. The Fire missiles that they have, which come from Iran, normally have a range of 25 miles, which still puts them near the Lebanese border, with a 100-pound warhead. These missiles are not going to be, easy to reload, the launchers for these missiles, without a crane. Now, the little junky missiles, the Katyushas that they shoot out of Gaza into South Israel, these things are built basically in stovepipes, and they put 8 of them on a launcher, and they could hide them in ditches and stuff like that. And these missiles we're talking about, and those missiles have a range of maybe up to 8 miles or so, 10 miles. But the more sophisticated stuff that Hezbollah probably got from Iran are large, heavy missiles, and you're not going to, shoot a missile from the launcher, and then 2 or 3 guys carry another missile over and put it in the launcher. The missile itself is probably going to be 400 pounds to 600 pounds or something like that. And they're not going to be reloadable by 2, 3 guys. You're going to need a crane and some sophisticated tools. The Fire 5, which we suspect Hezbollah has a small amount of, probably, has a range of 49 miles with a 200-pound warhead. Now, this sucker is even less portable and difficult to reload than the other ones. And this starts getting a lot more difficult. Is that you? Yeah. Oh, okay. You came back already? Couldn't hear you. I didn't finish my broadcast yet. They'll keep. You went already to the store? Oh, okay. It's also more difficult to set this up in a portable setting, like on the back of a pickup truck, which they call Technicos. They use a regular, like a Ford 150, and they put an immature, stovepipe missile launcher in there, riveted into the bed of the truck. And it might have 4, 6, or even 8 tubes to shoot, Katyushas or, junky missiles out of. That are just terrorist weapons. Then these other things, I'm going to cover more about sophisticated launchers. Remember, the key is not how many missiles you have, how many launchers you have. Okay? Your missiles, you could keep sitting in an underground bunker or a warehouse, and whoopie-doo, what do you do with them? You're going to pick them up and throw them? They weigh hundreds of pounds. What are you going to do? The Shahed 1 missile has a range of 15 miles with a 400-pound warhead. And this, again, probably weighs, 800 or 900 pounds. Look, when you put a big warhead on it, the engine for the missile has to get bigger, right? Because you got to propel this big heavy thing. And now when you got a bigger engine, you got to put more fuel in there. And fuel's heavy. You ever pick up a 5-gallon jerry can to refill a car or something with fuel. It weighs a lot. So these things are hundreds of pounds. So 2, 3 guys are not going to be able to just pick it up and carry it, raise it up and stick it into a launcher like they do with a Katusha that's 4 feet long and that wide, and it may weigh 60 pounds or 80 pounds or 50 pounds. A couple of guys can load it in a tube. They need cranes and stuff like that. So it's not, a reload's not going to happen in a few minutes. Okay? It'd probably be an hour more. Every time they launch a missile, Israel gets the GPS coordinates, and they will return artillery fire, mortar fire, rocket fire, bombs, everything at that site. Okay? Hezbollah is not a sophisticated military, and it's really not set up to support a large, sophisticated missile launching program. A sophisticated missile launcher is built on a truck, not an SUV or a pickup. Truck. Think tractor trailer or something like that. Even bigger than a 26-foot truck. It's like tractor trailer size, right? And it has a low flatbed on there made out of heavy metal. And the rocket launcher is built on there, and it has one missile capability at a time. All right? That's what these things look like. So as soon as they fire a missile, they're going to get return fire seconds later. And that return fire is frequently going to destroy the missile launcher and destroy the soldiers operating it. Now, they may be savvy to it and have the motor running on the truck that has the missile launcher, and the it's a dangerous game for them. They can get one missile off, and then they're going to lose the launcher and the crew. And the crew is usually about 10 guys. So now we take a look at the actions of these people and try to analyze what they're really up to. Okay, just like I told you the other day, if there really was a threat of a nuclear war, what you would see is not world leaders like Biden and Putin traveling around. Biden would be, we could assume the White House has some sort of bunkers underneath it, would be glued to the White House. Putin would be glued to wherever his place is in the Kremlin. Xi Jinping in China likewise. The mullahs in Iran likewise. It wouldn't go anywhere. And if these hypersonic missiles were true, that go at 20,000 miles an hour, you need to break that down, 20,000 miles an hour. So in a fourth of an hour, 15 minutes, they're going to go 5,000 miles. Okay, let's get a calculator going. $5,000 miles divided by 15 means it's going 333. Oh, that's not right. It is 333 miles an hour, a minute. So in 3 minutes it goes 1,000 miles. Hypersonics could be launched from a plane. Russia could easily get within 400 or 500 miles of the United States easily. You're talking 1 or 2 minutes strike time with a boat or an aircraft. So Biden wouldn't want to be anywhere far from the shelter, would he? If this was a real scenario that could actually happen. No, he wouldn't want to be anywhere far from the shelter. He'd want to be within 15 seconds of the shelter. So come on, that's not what's going on. He travels around, as does Putin, as does Xi Jinping, as do the mullahs in Iran, as do all of them. So don't buy that. Now, if Hezbollah really had 200 or 150,000 or 250,000 good missiles and rockets, would Israel be provoking Lebanon like that? Or would they be bending over backwards to sign some sort of peace treaty with Lebanon? They'd be bending over backwards to find create a peace treaty with Lebanon. If the nuke thing was real and Israel had these nuke bombs, wouldn't you think Hezbollah would be petrified to open up a front with us because we could just pop our cork and drop 200 or 300 megaton bombs on them and make Beirut look like Nagasaki or Hiroshima, as they like to tell us, or just create big holes in the ground that used to be called big cities in Lebanon. See? Israel government is not very afraid of Hezbollah at all. Okay. Continue. What Hezbollah does have is a good amount, tens of thousands for sure, of short-range rockets that would go out to a max of 15 miles. So this is limiting the attack to the Lebanese border area, which is heavily evacuated by Israel. There, we look at the actions of Israel and we realize the reality of the situation. Israel has great intelligence on all levels, including boots on the ground. They know what they're doing. So that's the big threat, okay? They could destroy property in the north of Israel by the Lebanese border. These short-range missiles are generally going to have a warhead of, 5 to 10 pounds or something like that. They're going to be pretty much equivalent to a mortar shell or an artillery shell. So if you hit a car with it, you probably destroy the car. It won't be usable or rebuildable. If you hit a house, you're probably going to hit the house on the roof or the upper floors because it's going to come down in an arc. They're not aimed missiles. They're random. They can't control exactly where they go. Okay? They could blow up houses, they could blow up streets, hit storefronts. But 95% of the population by the border is removed, so they can create some property damage. That's it. The ones that are there or have bomb shelters just go in the shelter. If they hit a house, they're just going to bust up the room in a house that they hit. I've seen videos. I mean, it's bad, and if they're in the house and not in the bomb shelter, it could be bad. We are of the belief that Hezbollah does have a lot of mortars, and they've used them against Israel since the breakout with the fighting at the border. Mortars have a maximum range of 10 miles. That's about it, and they're very inaccurate. So they couldn't put the mortars 5 or 6 miles inside Lebanon and wouldn't have any range left at all. So they got to try to set it up by the border. Now, this is a weapon that could be carried by a team of 2 or 3 guys. They could set it up, put it on an angle, feed a missile in, light it. I hope for the best. Mortars set up near the border would not last very long in combat because we would get a GPS on the launching site of the mortar, and in probably under a minute or maybe 1 or 2 minutes maximum, artillery would start landing on the launch site, maybe in a few seconds. So the launch team of Hezbollah could abort the missile launcher, just leave it there and run away. If they launch the missile and as soon as it launches, they run away, they're probably going to get away. If they have a delayed timer for the launch and they set it for 5 minutes and they run away, and they got 5 minutes to get out of there, they're probably going to get away. But the launcher's not going to get away. The way the launcher gets away is they fold it up, pick it up, and run with it. Now, that could happen. But again, they're not going to be damaging us like that. They're going to have to be several miles inside Lebanon to use these things. They're not going to be able to go right up to, 200 yards from the border. We'll see it. We have drones. We have planes. We got observation posts. We got cameras. We got everything. So this could be the type of thing that they could use, and they were already using this. They attacked the soldiers up by the border. That's their target. So the goal, and now we look at the actions. One of the goals Israel tried to put on Hezbollah, which they rejected, was they moved back to the UN boundary line, which is by the Livni, L-I-V-N-E River, 15 miles from the border of Israel. Because Israel knows if they're pushed back 15 miles, the vast, vast majority of their weapons are not going to be very effective against Israel. They won't reach. You see, look at their actions. It's not such a big, bad, ugly threat. That's the propaganda. Now, the Israeli military over the years would make the people think that there was a big bad threat so they can get funding. That's pretty typical and common with any country, usually. That's a democracy, anyway. So the real key to this is not how many rockets, but the number of the rocket launchers and crews that they have. And remember, the vast majority of their missiles and rockets, the explosive warhead is about the size of an artillery shell or a mortar shell. That's it. Most of them being unguided, I mean, all of them being unguided pretty much, or 98% or 99% or whatever, are going to land in open fields, in streets, hit the top of houses, hit a parked car, go into a parking lot, hit some trees, and stuff like this. They might sometimes hit the top of a house or an apartment building, and that could happen, or a store. They wouldn't create incredibly bad damage to the structure with a small explosive warhead like that, but it would be damaging to the area that got hit in the building. The ones up by the border would be in bomb shelters when this started happening, and they would probably rarely ever get hurt. And most of them aren't living there anymore. Probably 90, 95%, 98% of them are out of there. So Hezbollah can do this and take the wrath of Israel in return. And what are they going to get out of it? Nothing. What are they going to lose? They're going to lose their viability as a terrorist army on the border of Israel to provoke Israel and harass Israel and make Israel a bad place to live. And they're going to lose all that in a matter of a few days, like what happened to Hamas. Hezbollah could probably do something like what Gaza did and get 1,000 missiles off in a day, immature missiles. But look at the price they're going to pay. You see, when they did it in Israel, Israel wasn't ready and expecting it. When they do missile launches in the past, we're not always there ready and expecting. Now, for weeks, Israel's been up at the border with all kinds of, surveillance intel equipment and tanks and mobile artillery and everything else. We're on high alert. Planes are flying all the time. Drones are flying. Reconnaissance flights. High alert. It's not going to be anywhere near as effective as what Hamas did with a sneak attack. So with a high volume of launching of immature missiles, maybe they could sustain for a day or two, and that'll be it. Then they go into oblivion, and then they got to go get real jobs. Estimates of the size of the Hezbollah military have ranged from 30,000 to 50,000, what's referred to as regular army soldiers in Hezbollah. Now there's reserves as well. So, a second here. Reserve soldiers are generally immaturely trained. And in other words, they're not going to have many reserve soldiers that are trained to launch sophisticated missiles off of a truck. Okay? Katyushas and immature missiles, yeah. Carry an AK-47, shoot an RPG, or maybe a shoulder-fired missile, an anti-tank missile, maybe. That's it. So if we take the higher figure of 50,000 regulars, and the high figure that they'll say it goes up to 100,000 total reserves and regulars, but I don't think so. I think the highest they have is 75,000, and it might be 50 or 60,000. But it's more than 50,000 and probably not more than 75,000. That's what I'm thinking. Hezbollah might also have some Zalal Iranian missiles that can go 100 to 155 miles with substantial warheads. These are, again, unguided. And these things are the serious missiles that could damage big cities because the warheads, um, can get up into 400 pounds even. Now these are huge missiles. These missiles need to be on a truck, like a tractor trailer, low bed, with the launcher mounted, and they need a crew of 10 people. Okay, so let's say they had 100 such trucks, which they may not even have. If they did, then you take 100 times 10, and you got what you got, 1,000 soldiers. They might have that much. 2,000 of the 200 2,000 soldiers, maybe. But let's get real. Israel is sophisticated. We fly recon flights. America's flying recon flights and sharing intel with us. We have drones. We have observatories. We have boots on the ground, informants. We have all kinds of intel coming in. We monitor communications of all sorts. Okay? Probably they would be able to hide no more than 10% of these missile launches from Israel eyes. Okay? That's it. These are big things. You can't park them under a tree unless you got some massive tree, You can't park it under a tree. If it was a massive tree, you'd probably still see it. And these trucks are not going to go on rough terrain like a tank, okay? Or a half track or something like that. They need to be on at least a dirt road, a gravel road, a paved road. A dirt road is probably iffy for these things, especially if it's raining. It can get bogged down. It's a low boy, you could think of it. The bed that holds the missile launcher is, maybe like this. It's in between the wheels. It's not 3 or 4 feet up in the air. It's pretty darn low, maybe a foot. It's like the things they move tanks on. It's a low boy, And, it's got to have at least a good dirt road without mud. So they launch a missile, right? They have one of these things concealed. They fire it up. They got the crew. They sit in the little booth with this, and they're all, boom, they hit the buttons, right? And the missile launches. Boom, our anti-missile systems, the Arrow 3, the David Sling, the Iron Dome, are going to pick this up. In a matter of seconds, we're going to have the launch site, and we're going to have the trajectory of where this missile's going a few seconds later. If the missile is headed towards an open field, we'll do absolutely nothing and let them blow the grass up. Okay? If the missile is headed towards a populated area or structures and stuff like that, we have a choice of an Iron Dome, we have a choice of a David Sling or an Arrow 3 to take it out. So many of these missiles that they try this on are going to get taken out, probably half. Some will get through. Some will get through. Maybe not that many, but some. Because that's just the way the cookie will crumble. But if the Lord works, no, they won't get through. Okay, it may not happen. Now, we know exactly where that truck is. So what do? We immediately send coordinates to artillery. Artillery shells easily go 15, 17 miles. So they probably have 2 or 3 artillery pieces start boom, 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 with possibly a spread pattern. Now we know that the truck's going to probably be moved because it's going to keep it safer, and it doesn't have to be moved that much. If they move it, let's say even a quarter of a mile, it's out of the blast zone. But they would want to move it more than that. But this is no Ferrari where you jump in and you start the key, you throw it in gear, and this truck ain't going fast. It's not on I-5 or I-10. It's in some rinky-dink junky road somewhere. How fast do you think the thing's going to go? So the crew has to disengage from being in the launch control room, which is like a little closet thing probably on the truck, and they have to they probably have a radar disc or something. Oh, they're not guided. No, they probably don't. And they're not going to just be able to. I mean, okay, theoretically, the guy that drives the truck could be sitting there with the engine running, okay, and he has the truck pointed right at the road. They hit the launch button as soon as the missile clears the tubes. Everybody jumps on the truck, hangs on, and the truck driver starts driving as quick as he can. So what would Israel do then? They'd use drones to locate the thing, because they know how many miles an hour the thing's going to go, and they're not going to wait an hour to do it. They may wait 10, 20 minutes. They start flying drones overhead to hunt this thing down. Could be a suicide drone or an attack drone that shoots missiles or something. They're gonna fire the bottom line on this is this: they're gonna fire a missile. It may or may not get through. Probably minimally half of them won't. Maybe 80% won't. And you see, when you're shooting short-range missiles, like the people in Sderot near Gaza in the south, they got 15 seconds to get into the shelter, the bomb shelter. Now, if you're shooting a missile and you're trying to go, with a sophisticated missile 100, 150 miles, the people probably have, a couple of minutes to get to a shelter. That gives us a lot more time for the Arrow 3 or the David Sling to track the thing and then go after it and blow it up. As a last-ditch effort, the Iron Dome could also try to damage it. Also, jets could fly and shoot air-to-air missiles at it. The air-to-air missile is going to think it's another plane or something like that, so they can engage the missile with an air-to-air missile and blow that up too. So there's all kinds of difficulties for them. But what they're going to do is these missile launchers are good for one shot. That's what I'm telling you. One shot and it's over. We're going to blow most of them up. Are we going to get every single one? No, we'd probably get 65, 80% of them, something like that. Some would be able to get away and go hide someplace in a garage, a building, who knows what. These are not the kind of missiles that you're going to set up in between people's houses and launch. You're not going to be able to set it up next to a UN building or something like that and launch. It's too sophisticated, too big. These are not the kind of missiles you could dig a ditch and put them in there and shoot them from there. These are not the kind of missiles you could shoot from inside a tunnel by opening up the tunnel roof and then shooting them. These are big deals. These things are probably 25 feet, and they're thick and they're heavy. They're going to weigh tons. No. This is a big deal. So Hezbollah could conceivably create damage in Israel. Probably they don't have any capability to do anything serious because they don't have guided, accurate missiles like Israel does. They're not going to be hitting their targets. It's pot luck. They probably could hit a city that's 6 or 8 or 10 miles or even 25 miles across. Yeah, they could probably hit something like that. Where's it going to land in the city? They don't know. Could they use a lot of these to take out Israeli military bases? I doubt it. They don't have that kind of precision. And Israel's well aware of that and doesn't want to wait for them to get that kind of precision, and that's why we're going to take them out. One reason. Because if they had 2,000 serious missiles that had precision and they could put them into airports, military bases, government structures, and all kinds of things like this, well, Israel now has a real problem of a higher magnitude. So why wait? We know their intentions. Got it? Israel's not waiting. They're waiting for perhaps the Hamas thing to calm down a little bit more and we could move more and more troops away from there up to the north. So if Hezbollah gets stupid, they wake up in the morning and take stupid pills, they could say, yeah, we could harass Israel and make it look good for a couple of days and then we cease to exist. We got to go get jobs as clerks in the stores and go back to teaching school or working as mechanics or whatever they're going to do. Okay? It's not going to get them much progress at all, and it's going to get them to not be an organization anymore. And it could result in a regime change in Lebanon from the official government, which is not Hamas. They cannot launch a swarm attack with these big sophisticated missiles. Maybe once they can do it, but they can't really do it. It's really extremely unlikely that they have more than maybe 100 of these missiles and stuff like that. But again, it's not the missiles, it's the launchers. These launchers are big, bulky truck things with one missile at a time. Doesn't matter if they got 82,000 of these missiles, how many of these trucks do they have? See the issue? Do they have 1,000 such of these trucks? That's probably highly unlikely. And how do they hide them? If they had this kind of, if they had 1,000 of these, 2,000 or 3,000 of these missiles, and they had 1,000 of these trucks, they probably would have proceeded in a war against us. They don't have it. It's probably going to take them at least an hour to reload one of these things. Now, they're going to keep the missile inventory near the launcher, so they might have 5 or 10 of these missiles nearby the launcher. They're not going to keep it a mile away. They might keep it 100 yards, 50 yards, something like that. So the idea is they have some sort of a little transport vehicle that would go over to the supply of missiles, and they'd have a crane, and they would load one of the missiles away from their store bin and put it on this little vehicle and shuttle it over to the launcher, where there would be another crane and they would pick it up and move it into position with the cranes. Then they got to set it up and start with the calibration and get the thing fired up and all that. I doubt they could do it in an hour, maybe, but it would take that. And there wouldn't be a missile launcher there anymore. It'd be blown up. If they did have 1,000 trucks and 10 people per crew, they would have to have 10,000 of their soldiers just trained on sophisticated missile launching, which is absurd. They don't have that. They don't have that. They might not even have more than 40 or 50 of these trucks, even maybe 24 trucks. If they ever got a second missile off from one of these big truck launches, it would be, I'd say, a rare event. Then we go to drones. Hezbollah would have at least 2,000 drones. And this could easily be handled by Israel Defense Forces a number of ways. Iron Dome, all different ways. That's not going to do much. It's a harassment, that's all it is. The strength of the Hezbollah military is simplex infantry. Soldiers with AK-47s, RPGs, shoulder-fired missiles, hand grenades, mortars, basic, simple stuff. They don't have tanks. They don't have a navy to speak of. They don't have anything resembling an air force. They have no air defense systems to harass our planes, okay? How could they invade Israel without air support? They can't. What would happen if they tried to invade or infiltrate the border? They would run up against mobile artillery, shelling them. And mobile artillery pieces and tanks in Israel generally have 2 machine guns. One would normally be and they're all variants and different, but one would normally be a 30 caliber machine gun, which is anti-personnel typically. The other would be a 50 caliber, which would be anti-personnel and anti-equipment, like blow trucks up, buses, other tanks with armor-piercing incendiary ammo, blow up other armored personnel carriers with armor-piercing incendiary 50 caliber shells, possibly shoot at helicopters, drones, and other things, okay? So they're running at our tanks and our mobile artillery pieces, which have 2 machine guns each plus artillery. So the artillery's working on them and the machine guns are mowing them down. Apache attack helicopters are shooting them with rockets and spraying Gatling gun fire on them. Then the soldiers have machine guns as well, and mortars and towed artillery and surface-to-surface rockets. It would just be an annihilation. They're not going to infiltrate. We're ready for them. What infiltration? Not going to happen. Do they have tunnels that go into Israel and they can come out by the tunnel? You think we didn't check for tunnels by now? If we found the tunnel, we could blow it up. The other thing we could do is we can establish a handful of special forces with a squad machine gun, with a bipod or a tripod, and 4 or 5 shoulder-fired weapons, rockets, and missiles. So when they start coming up out of the tunnel, they get bombarded. Plus, they could call in artillery and airstrikes. So it would just be an annihilation of those in the tunnel. As they came out, they would die. Now, could Hezbollah do much to defend their Lebanese territory against Israel ground invasion? Yeah, they can make it difficult. So Israel may or may not do a ground invasion. Or they might go in a few miles, even 10 or 15 miles, strictly in tanks and armored personnel carriers with air support. But Israel may structure this in a way where it doesn't have to go in. They'll just blow the daylights out of everything up to that 15-mile Libni River line. And then keep patrolling it by air. Anything new comes in, just blow it up again. They'll quit. Israel goes in, they're likely going to find out Hezbollah has a lot of caves, rough mountainous terrain, tunnels, underground structures, and it would be a lousy fight for a long time. And I'm not so sure Israel would want to bother with it. Now, Iran will probably try to light up Syria while we're attacking Lebanon. Probably by trying to put missiles into Syria via Iraq and via air transport and launch missiles at Israel in a manner similar to what Hezbollah was doing to us and is doing to us while we're attacking Hamas. So now we'll be attacking Lebanon. Syria will try to distract us and cause us to bring troops to the Syrian border. This is, I think, expected and planned for. Okay? Yemen's already in the fight. There's probably not a lot more they're going to do. So that's the picture with the Hezbollah war to come any day. That's what it's going to look like. It'll be nasty, but it's not going to be that nasty. And Hezbollah may not escalate, but we will. Threatening these Middle East radical, crazy Muslim terrorists doesn't work. So what Israel said, if you don't quit it out with the border skirmishes, we're going to destroy the electrical grid in Beirut for Lebanon. They don't care. They said, we're going to, blow up, and then they said, we'll blow up every position you have all the way out to the Livni River line, 15 miles. Yeah. Hamas was that way too. Now they're begging for ceasefires every day. Getting the UN to vote for ceasefires, which are not enforceable because it's the General Assembly of the UN. They can't enforce anything. So they're trying to... You see, the only way the UN can enforce anything is if the Security Council does something. And America and China and Russia and UK have permanent seats on the Security Council, and if any one of them vetoes it, it's dead. And that's why it's ineffective, because China and Russia are pitched against America and the UK. So the UN is just a waste of time. Okay, it's just a waste of time and money. So this is not such a big, scary war. If it was, Israel wouldn't be doing it. Israel not idiots. The runs, it's not going to be that big a deal. Remember, the threats that these crazy terrorists make are usually empty. And they talk about missiles that they don't have. They'll show you a picture of a missile taking off, and then the press release will say, this missile can attain a speed of 19,000 miles an hour and can attain a height of 18,000 miles and exit the atmosphere, break the firmament in Genesis 1. Yeah, right. And then come back down, breaking the firmament a second time. Sure. And then fall down at an incredible speed and blow somebody up, some military base up or something like that. I'm not even talking nuclear. I'm just saying, every time North Korea or, Iran shows you a missile test, it's just blah, 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 blah. They try to scare people. Do they really scare the Pentagon? No. Does the Pentagon look scared? Now, is Iran a threat regarding ground invasion of Iran by America and or NATO or with NATO? Yeah, but not for those reasons, because they're going to have underground bunkers, and they've got huge armies, and they've got, basic infantry weapons. That is a nightmare for the soldiers. They got anti-tank missiles, they got machine guns, they got mortars, they got artillery, they got short-range rockets, medium-range missiles, they got all kinds of stuff. And they could really put a dent. But look, it's the big threat that Iran poses to America is if America goes into Iran, they're going to get bogged down there. It's going to be a fight for months, and they're going to lose a lot of equipment and a lot of soldiers. It's not going to go well for them. Okay? I don't think Israel wants a reproduction of going in on the ground and fighting with tunnels and underground bunkers and civilian casualties and all the nonsense that Hamas did. They'll just do concerted, intense, heavy airstrikes for that 15-mile distance to the Livni River. And we may temporarily go in there to make sure we didn't miss anything and just demilitarize Hezbollah in that area. And then we're still going to have to keep a considerable amount of troops up at the border for some time to watch and see if they're going to repopulate the area. If they repopulate the area, then we'll blow it up again. Or we may have to occupy that 15-mile stretch. That's something we might have to do, and that could be bloody. They'll have improvised explosive devices all over the place and roads and whatnot. They'll be in tunnels. They'll pop up and attack equipment and soldiers. It'll be ugly. But we might do that to eliminate. There has to be a goal for doing that. And the goal would be to eliminate the threat from Lebanon. And that 15 miles is going to give us enough of a cushion. We're not going to worry about it. And you got to remember, if they're launching a more sophisticated missile, it's got to travel at least 15 miles. So we got more time to lock the Arrow 3 and the David Sling onto it and take it down. Not a lot more time, but more time. Time is time. Okay? And they're not going to shoot that thing at empty cities near the Lebanese border. They're going to try to hit a Haifa or a Tel Aviv or something like that. Now, eventually they're going to start trying to hit Jerusalem, and these morons may blow their own Al-Aqsa Mosque or Dome of the Rock up. And the first knee-jerk reaction from that will be Israel did it and they're saying we did it. But we'll have the tracking on the radar and we'll have it saved and everything, so that's not going to work. But they may do that, not on purpose. They could try to do it on purpose to get the other Muslim countries mad at us, but that's a dangerous game. Because if the radar tracking files showed that they did it on purpose, oh man, they're in for it. You know, so they have to make it look like an accident. Don't think that's going to happen. Not thinking that. Tonight they're going to be marching again, the right-wing portion of Israel, about taking control of the Temple Mount. And that is going to raise tensions, but so what? Okay, let me switch horses here and discuss something with you. Somebody brought up yesterday, and this is somebody that studies the Bible for decades, said that the Revelation 17, the great whore, is not Washington, D.C. or America. It is really the beast location, which is in Pergamos, which is in Cyprus, North Cyprus, controlled by Turkey. This doesn't hold water, and I'll do a brief breakdown on it. First, we have a prayer request for CG, Charlie Golf. CG, Charlie Golf. CG, prayer request for healing. Okay? Some of the translations depict the words great city to describe New Jerusalem. So some translations call it holy city. So we have to, number one, say, just because it's called the great city in Revelation 17, and also where the beast is in Pergamos is not enough to build the doctrine on. Okay? You have to look at the other attributes. Now, we got to take a look at Revelation 16, which is the tribulation. Okay? Period. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. And the tribulation doesn't come on Israel, it comes on the nations after the great day of the Lord. We've covered all that. Revelation 16 starts out, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, "Go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth." So the vials go out on the whole earth. And the word they use for earth is G. It means earth or soil. I would say it's not a specific country, it's the earth. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. So the image is the talking statue set up in Pergamos, which is where Satan's seat is. And in Revelation 13:2, when the beast comes out of the sea, Satan gives him his seat and his authority, his power and authority. So it has to be in Pergamos, which Revelation 2 tells us is where Satan's seat is and where he dwells. To get around that, you can't. It's inescapable, and it's all scripture. Okay, so it's not Jerusalem, all right? And it's, if you don't understand much about the Bible, you're not going to understand this. But after the great day of the Lord is over, which is Gog and Magog, which is the whole book of Joel, which is Ezekiel 38:39, which is Zechariah 14, which is Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. There's no beast, no false prophet, no talking statue, no mark of the beast to buy or sell. In the whole book of Daniel, you never read of the beast, the false prophet, the talking statue, or the mark of the beast on the hand of the forehead to buy and sell, because it doesn't happen to Israel. It not once appears in the whole book of Joel, chapters 1 to 12. Not once is it there. Nowhere in the book of Joel. Okay, go look for it. So this is not anything we read about in Revelation 17:18. The beast, the false prophet, the statue, the mark of the beast of bronze. It's missing from Revelation 17 and 18. It's also missing from Jeremiah 50 and 51, which is the daughter of Babylon. And it's also missing from Isaiah 47, which is the daughter of Babylon. It's all missing. And when the daughter of Babylon is being destroyed, it says that the Israelites will come out of there and all the true believers will come out of there and they'll go to the wilderness. Those of you who survived the sword with Zion come to mind. They go to the wilderness and then they come to Israel. It's called the second Exodus. Okay, we don't read any of this in Revelation 16 or anywhere about the Great Tribulation. The second Exodus is over already, done and past. So you got a lot of problems because there's no second Exodus coming out of Pergamos. And when you're talking about the great city, you got to also understand that America is run by Washington, D.C., which stands for District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is not inside any state. It's its own city. And it's administered by the federal government. It's not part of the 50 states. That's why he refers to it as the great city in Revelation 17 and 18. Now, the damage and the destruction doesn't just go to the great city. It goes to the whole country. Because when you read Jeremiah 50:51, it talks about cities, plural. Okay? Quite a bit. And then we see the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea. It became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Well, in Revelation 17 and 18, we see them with the ships mourning the fire burning up Babylon, the daughter of Babylon. Now, what's going on here? How come they're not dead? Why are they sitting there mourning? See what I'm saying? The destruction of the daughter of Babylon is in an hour and a day. That's what we're told, Jeremiah 50:51, an hour and a day. When you read Revelation, well, about the tribulation, it's certainly not in an hour or a day. These are long, drawn-out punishments. Like they want to die for 5 months and they can't die. Yet the daughter of Babylon goes out in a day, in an hour and a day. So there's a grievous inconsistency. Then the waters become blood. Well, now we got guys in the ships in Revelation 17 and 18 that should be dead and they're not. And they're in the ships and we don't read about the rivers and stuff like that turning to water, turning into blood. Well, maybe they're in the ocean, but it says rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood. So maybe they're in the ocean and it didn't happen, but okay. We don't read about it anyway, so then, you know. And then we read in Revelation 16:8, the fourth angel poured out his vial on the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over the plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. Well, Jeremiah 50:51 is about a lot of fires burning up the daughter of Babylon and an enemy invasion, and the people holed up in their holes and refusing to fight and stuff like that. We don't see these Revelation 16 plagues hit the daughter of Babylon. And then we read of the sixth angel pouring out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And then I see three unclean spirits like kings come out of the mouth of the dragon, Satan, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. You just don't have it. You see, here we see the false prophet, the beast, and Satan working together. What we see in Revelation 17 is nothing like that. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, many nations, which the United States does, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, spiritual fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Then he goes into the wilderness and saw the woman on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, blah, blah, blah. This is the beast. 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was all decked out with jewels and expensive clothes. And on her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great. It doesn't say the great city here, it says the great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And this was probably the same character that was running the old Babylon, which was located in Iraq. And I saw, the Nebuchadnezzar one, right? And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, of Yeshua, and I saw her and I wondered with great admiration. So this would have to happen after Yeshua. So it can't be the old Babylon, which was pre-Yeshua coming to earth timing. So just another add-on there. And then he says, the mystery of the woman and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. So the 10 horns come out from the beast. He controls them. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. And the 10 horns which thou saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings. Now remember, they're 10 kings, so do they have a country now? Or why would they be a king if they didn't have a country? They're a king of nothing? No, I don't think that when it says receive no power, no kingdom yet. Let's check that word. Oh, that's yet. It says they have received. It doesn't say kingdom. It says no. But receive power. As kings 1 hour with the beast. Okay, so when the beast comes out, I guess, starts taking power, they get power. And that'll probably already happen. I don't know. I would guess so. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So they do whatever the beast wants. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Then in verse 17, 16, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. So this is the beast, basically. He controls the 10 horns. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Well, we know she gets burned with fire, the daughter of Babylon, America. Eat her flesh, well, we've seen how Hamas behaved on October 7th, so this could be a lot more literal than we think. And the 10 horns are the beast. They're his boys, you could say, right? And they kill the whore. So if the whore, which the last verse in Revelation 17 is the great city, if that great city is Pergamos, which is where Satan's seat is and where Satan dwells, according to Revelation 2, this would depict the beast is trying to kill Satan and take him out because he's trying to kill his city and where his seat is. And that, of course, is not the gist at all of what's going on. So at this point, we can stop. And the daughter of Babylon is Washington, D.C., and Pergamos is where the beast sets up his temple, which is where Satan's seat is, and Satan dwells. So it's an interesting theory. I myself thought it was true once upon a time, years ago, but it's not. Okay, that's what I got for today. So my name's Moshe, my wife is Rivka, so please pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances, and pray for better videos. And please keep praying for my hernia to heal up. Okay, I think it's improving, but please pray for that. My abdomen's still good. And pray for the animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole at all rescues. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And offering information's in the description box. We can take PayPal. Just give me an email and I'll send you the link to PayPal. My email address is in the chat. It's in the description box on the lowest line down. It's Israel Giving, one word with the number 7 at gmail.com. And thanks to those of you that are giving offerings. And I'll keep you informed about the war, and I'll probably give you an update in the evening, as is my tradition for the war evening reports, which are usually 5 to 15 minutes. And we'll keep watching the snare on America get tighter. We have no choice. That's what's happening. And relax. This is just prophecy being fulfilled, and all things work to good for those who love the Lord. All things, including wars. And don't worry. Be calm. And I'm out. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach.